A white UFC star's comments about his adopted black children is causing a stir. A Sopranos star slams woke Hollywood. A black climate activist says climate is, you guessed it, racist. And I regret to inform you the white libs are at it again, bashing themselves for clicks and likes. This is Can't Cancel Rob Smith. All right, folks, so a white UFC star is taking a lot of heat for some comments that he made about his adopted black children. Now, this is UFC fighter Michael Chandler, who visited the Sean Ryan show, and this is what he had to say about adopting black kids.
I'm not raising black children. I'm raising children. I'm not raising black men. I'm raising men. And whether you are black or you are white, no matter what race that you are, there are certain things about being a man and being a good man when it comes to character and integrity and safeguarding the helpless and sticking up for those who need it and being a good man of reputation. None of that has to do with skin color. Everything has to do with the character of the man. And like I said, it's probably probably not an answer that some people would say is important, but that's where the world has gone, where we think that the most important thing about us is our skin color or our gender or our sex or our political affiliation or all these different identity politics or the identities that we put on each other, when really we're just human beings on this earth.
Okay, so obviously you know that super far left black Twitter and black TikTok and all of that other stuff, they had a lot to say about this, obviously. So my thoughts about the topic of interracial adoption are very complicated. Okay, so obviously let's go to what black Twitter and black TikTok and all these people are saying, like all these leftist activists. Basically, they're saying that, you know, a lot of them don't think that white people should be adopting black children. I think that that's obviously completely ridiculous. And I do not agree with that in any way, shape, or form. So let's get into what he's saying that actually makes sense. Okay. I am of the belief, to me, this is how I personally believe, and people can call me a coon or Uncle Tom or whatever. They've called me every name in the book. I just do not care at this point. I feel like we are at a moment in society where people act as if their skin color or their gender or their sexual orientation or their gender identity or whatever these other things are, they make these things the core of their personality. They think that these things are the most important aspects of their entire existence. And I think that that is wrong. First of all, your skin color, your sexual orientation, these what I call immutable characteristics are likely the least interesting things about you. But we live in an era where people get so much attention on social media and so much validation from the left and in these activism organizations and all this other stuff. Like they get so much validation from their differences that it becomes their entire identity, and they are not allowed to see themselves as individuals. Now, this is individualism versus collectivism, right? So with this guy, Michael Chandler, is saying that, you know, I've got these black children and I see them as children. And he's like, I've got these two boys and I am raising these boys to be young men in the ways that people should be men. I understand that. I get that. And by the way, I totally, completely, 100% agree with that aspect of what he is saying, because that is crucial. That is important. The issue lies here. And before I get into the issues that I have with this, I want to take you back to how I felt about interracial adoption when I was a leftist or back on the left, whatever. I was never a leftist, but I was definitely more liberal in my earlier years. And I thought, well, number one, I was like, well, there shouldn't be interracial adoption, because how are these people how are white people going to teach black children to be black people, right? Like that was the thought that I had as a liberal. And you have to understand the liberal mind process that goes behind this idea, right? So their idea is that this white person could not possibly raise these black children to be functional, stable, strong members of society. Obviously, that's ridiculous. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Now, what I will say is this. When you're raising black children, these children are going to be raised. Oh my God, I'm going to get so much crap from the conservatives about this. But these black kids are going to be raised in a sea of whiteness. All right. They're going to be raised around a bunch of white people. And let me tell you something, there's nothing wrong with that because they're going to be seen as individuals and they're going to be loved and cared for and protected and all this other stuff. The issue that is going to arise is when they go out into a society that sees them as something else. Let me tell you something. I've been a black man in America for a very long time. I can think whatever I want about myself inside. Like, I'm an individualist. I know who I am in here. I also know that the world sees this. And the world is sometimes not too kind to this. The world treats this in lots of different ways. And I know that the kumbaya conservatives, we're all Americans, we're all African, we're not African Americans, we're just Americans, whatever. These are mostly white people. And the kumbaya conservatives don't understand that because they don't know what it is for the world to treat them as something that is different. All right. I know what that is like. So the reason that I think how I see this situation is raise these children up to be men. Absolutely. But find some way to put these kids around other black people. I don't know if you're going to get a black nanny. I don't know what that is, but find a way to culturally connect these kids to who they are as black people. Because I think that the responsibility and the job of any parent is to raise their child in a bubble so that they are loved and supported and cared for in that bubble. Like, that's the job as a parent, is to protect the kids. Now, these black boys are going to have to go out of that bubble of love and care and protection and exist in a world that's not the friendliest to us sometimes. So I think that there's an element that they need to be in some way prepared for that. I'm not saying that they have to become leftists and hate white people. I'm not saying that they have to see themselves as victims. I'm not saying any of that other stuff. What I'm saying is that these kids will have to learn somewhere, somehow, how to be around black people, and they're going to have to realize and learn and understand, and particularly as young black men, all right? You are going to have to understand that this is a world that is not going to be always super kind to you. This is a world that's going to be hostile to you. This is a world that's going to treat you differently. And again, I know the kumbaya conservatives, we love all people and all that stuff. Like, this is when they start calling me a Democrat and they start calling me a leftist and they start calling me all this other stuff because I keep it very real when it comes to this stuff. Like, just like y'all love how I keep it real with black people about our shortcomings and the things that we need to do as black people, and I get attacked by all the black libs for that, I got to keep it real with you about this, is that these young black boys are going to have to learn how the world is when it comes to black people. And that's just like, that's real tea. That is real free thinking. That is as real as the sky is blue. But I'm glad that these kids have found a home. I am so glad that he has adopted these children. And I'm glad that they're going to be loved and cared for and affirmed and taught how to be men. Absolutely 100%. But you cannot deny that you are raising two young black men, and you cannot deny the things that they are going to face when they go out in the world. All right, a Sopranos star is slamming woke Hollywood. This is Drea De Matteo, who has gone on the Donald Trump Jr. podcast. He has a podcast called Triggered, and she has gone on this podcast to basically talk about how woke Hollywood is. Talk about, like, we know how woke Hollywood is, but she's gone on here pretty much talking about how insane they are. And I think that it's very interesting from the Hollywood perspective. And by the way, Drea De Matteo does not identify as a conservative. She is just a lib that even knows that the libs have gone too far. This is what she had to say to Trump Jr.
But are there more conservatives sort of out there in Hollywood and in the industry, but they just feel like they have to shut up? I mean, are there people that have your thoughts on, the vaccine or the shutdowns or the sort of oppressive government regimes, and they're just like, but you know what? It's easy. I got a good life in Hollywood. I just don't want to challenge that, because I feel like those people, many cases, leading, pop culture, like that could wake up so many people if you had more people that just had the guts to do what you're doing.
Well, like I said, I don't know that I ever would have just, I wanted to, I really did want to fight, but I didn't think that I had A, the voice, B, the balls. Like I just didn't, I kind of got thrown to the wolves, I felt like. And once I was out there,
Then
I
you
was like, I'm
fight.
out here. What am I going to do? I'm out of my cage. Like I may as well just, do what I got to do. And I do feel like I'm supported, by my boyfriend, I know this sounds crazy, but by God, my children, my children are, um, they believe in what we believe in, which is freedom and unity the right way, not unity the way this administration was trying to push, because that was bullshit. They
Yeah.
took every social agenda and used these social issues as pawns to further their administration, did nothing but divide people. The social issues, even with your dad, like I don't care about that stuff. Whenever I think about your dad too, I'm like, I don't think he cares about that stuff as much. I think he cares about what's really going on, which is behind the scenes. And those are the things that need to be addressed before anybody's going to have freedom with any social issues.
All right, look. So, okay. Before I can even get into this, like, we have to put this entire thing into context. Okay, so Drea De Matteo obviously was on Sopranos. I never watched The Sopranos. She won an Emmy for The Sopranos. You know, she was on the show Shades of Blue with Jennifer Lopez. God, probably well over a decade ago. But look, Drea De Matteo was out in those Hollywood streets. She was in the parking lots. She wasn't working. I believe that Drea De Matteo is in her early 50s. Like, she had to do something to pay the bills, and she went to OnlyFans, started busting it wide open on OnlyFans, whatever. All right. And look, she said that I wasn't making any money. I had to pay the bills. So I got on OnlyFans, and now I'm not in all this debt anymore. I can pay my bills. I got the OnlyFans and all that other stuff. Now, is what she's saying right about Hollywood? Well, yes. Because here's the thing about the Hollywood system, and all of these systems are the same. If you're in the Hollywood system, if you're in the DNC industrial complex, if you're in the RNC industrial complex, when you exist in these bubbles, there are certain things that you can and cannot say in these bubbles. It is the same in Hollywood. It's the same with the Democrats. It's the same with the Republicans, right? If you're a Republican, there's things that you can't say. If you're a Democrat, there's things that you can't say. If you're in Hollywood, you're basically forced to be a lib. The entire entertainment industry is just owned by the libs, so there's something that she can't say, right? So she's right about that. Now, I hate calling people grifters because I don't think that grifting, like, I think that term is overused. What I will say is that Drea De Matteo is out here hustling. She had to go to OnlyFans. She has done interviews telling you how broke she is. She's broke. So she went to OnlyFans and she is less broke. Now she's like, whether she believed this stuff or not, and I do believe that on some level she did believe it, because a chick like that is never going to be like a real lib, right? Like a true lib. The hustler in her is like, okay, so look, it's safe to be a little bit more right-leaning right now. Like, it's becoming a little safer to talk to Trump Jr. and all this stuff because, like, Hollywood is not messing with me anymore. So I may as well go over here, get some new OnlyFans subscribers, by the way. And also, I bet you dollars to donuts that Drea De Matteo will be in the podcast world. She will be in the sort of right-leaning conservative media space within a year. Dollars to donuts. Because her Hollywood career is more or less over, and now she's out here trying to hustle. Does it negate what she is saying? No. It doesn't negate what she's saying at all. It doesn't make it any less true. But also, you have to look. I had to look at my screw. This is my screw face. She's hustling. And look, the hustle is real. You got to do what you got to do. If it takes her to speak up about, kind of being excommunicated from that Hollywood system and getting all that attention, God bless, more power to her. All right, a woke black climate activist says that the climate is racist. Of course, you know where all this is going.
Eco-anxiety is an environmental justice issue that disproportionately impacts Black youth. Let's talk about it. According to the American Psychological Association, eco-anxiety is defined as a chronic fear of environmental doom, and that may include feelings of worry, guilt, shame, despair, and even hope.
You know why there's something called eco-anxiety? Do you know why that there is an impending doom, impending fear of climate doom? Do you know why everybody on TikTok and all these young people and all of these stupid climate activists are all freaking insane? Because they get bombarded by nonstop climate propaganda every freaking where that they look. If you know anything about this climate change agenda and that climate propaganda, this is something that happens every generation, folks. I didn't even realize this. It happens every generation. There is a Time magazine cover from like 1984 where there was some living room that was like frozen over with a bunch of icicles or whatever, because back in the 80s, we were all going to freeze to death. And then there was global warming where everything was going to warm up and, oh, it's the global warming. And now they're not even saying that anymore. They've gotten smart about it. They're just saying climate change. What does climate change even mean? I have no idea. But now even this made up thing called eco-anxiety, which is another social media fueled mental illness, now even that's racist. There's some more.
However, just as the climate crisis doesn't impact people and communities the same, neither does eco-anxiety. When we fully understand the relationship between social determinants of mental health and climate change, we begin to understand that the nature of a person's eco-anxiety is also informed by systemic factors that exacerbate the ways that it's felt and addressed. Communities of color, and particularly Black ones, are more vulnerable than white ones to sea level rise, wildfire, and heat waves linked to climate change. Black youth are more likely to reside in hotter regions that trap and radiate heat, have the highest asthma rates in the country, and are increasingly more likely to experience mental health illness.
All right, I can't listen to any more of this, but I gotta tell you, she's pretty. And they always pick the cute ones to push the agenda. All right, like she's gonna be on some panels or somewhere talking about this crap in 3 years. She's cute. But long story short, what I hate as a Black person, I hate that we are always the ones that are pushed forth as the victims of whatever freaking social justice, climate change, eco-anxiety narrative that these people are trying to push. It doesn't make any, like, why are we always the ones? This chick, she's a cute girl. She's got to be able, there's got to be something else for her to do than to talk about eco-anxiety and how the climate is racist and all of this other stuff. And like I said, the reason why people are going crazy, the reason why younger people are having quote unquote eco-anxiety, I don't know even what that means. I've never heard of it until TikTok, which is a point that I'm making over and over again, that these things don't exist. They are just created on TikTok. And now look, I'm a part of the problem. I'm talking about this as if it's a real thing. It's not a real thing, all right? And the reason, if eco-anxiety even is a real thing, and it's not, it's a real thing because all of these young people are terminally online and being driven absolutely insane by listening to people screaming at them that the world is going to end if you don't elect more Democrats. That is what is going on here. And when I look at this stuff, I feel that sometimes I may be like, am I the last sane person? Well, I can't be the last sane person because there's not millions, but there's a million of you out there that follow me, and that we'll just say hundreds of thousands. I'm a million on socials, all like everything put together, this million following. But look, that's what's going on. All right. People are being driven crazy because they are exposing themselves to all of this crap on a daily basis. Stop exposing yourself to this crap. Stop exposing your kids to this crap. And maybe people will start being a little less insane. The white libs are at it again. This white liberal is just basically like flogging himself on social media, and it is so ungodly cringe.
Why is it that white folks support anti-blackness, racism, and white supremacist culture in so many goddamn fucking ways? Why is it that we support it through our silence, our defensiveness, our denial, that code of silence? Let's not talk about it. Let's ignore it. All that fucking gymnastics, that defensiveness, the fucking anger, the passive aggressiveness, the stereotyping, the overt, covert racist, all the shit that we do, the gaslighting, All that fucking shit that we do as white people. Why can't we just leave black people the fuck alone?
You know, I really would, like, white people, like, I really, really wish you would leave us alone. I really wish that you would stop trying to save us. I really wish that you would stop trying to tell us how to speak, how to think, and how to believe. And what I really wish is that you would stop trying to save us. Who are you doing this for? All right, because you're not doing this for other white people. Like, you're not, and this is what I hate about, like, the white libs that are on social media. It's because you're not really trying to do this for other white people. Like, you're not really doing this to wake other white people up. You're not really having this conversation for other white people. You're having this conversation so that you can get pats on the back from these sad, pathetic black libs on social media that will love you as long as you reinforce their victimhood mindset and their victimhood mentality. It drives me up the wall. Like, it drives me absolutely crazy, because you're not doing this for white people. You're not doing this to wake up white people. You're not actively, really, whatever it is that you think that white people are doing to black people to oppress us and to make us victims and to do all that stuff. You're not saying this for them. You're saying this so that you can get woke points from black libs, the ones that you think that you basically treat like special needs children, because you think that getting a voter ID is racist. You think that everything is racist. You think that we have no autonomy in our lives. You think that we just walk around as these professional victims. That's who you want sort of pats on the back on TikTok from. You know, you're not doing this for white people. And by the way, if I was this dude, I would be worrying about, like, I would be worrying about what you're eating. Like, I would be worrying about, this dude is like struggling to breathe, making a TikTok video in his car. I think that whatever white people are doing to black people should be the least of his problems. And again, what I always get into, and what this always boils down to, is it always boils down to individualism versus collectivism. All right. I am an individualist. All right. I'm not a member of some monolith. Like, I will speak of black people and our issues sometimes, like, because there are cultural things or whatever. But I believe that fundamentally there are tens of millions of black people in this world, or excuse me, in this country. All right. And there's also tens of millions of white people in this country as well. They are all individuals. They can all make their choices. So it's this collectivist mindset, and this is the lib mindset. Like, this is the Democrat lib mindset. It's this collectivist mindset that says that we all need to come together and we all need to do this. And when we all need to come together and do something, then that somehow always translates to creating more laws for the federal government to make these things happen. And that is what irritates me the most about guys like this guy. Let's finish listening to what he has to say.
Why? Because we were taught that shit. It's our culture. White supremacist culture is American culture. It's European culture. We see ourselves as overseers. We ourselves as entitled to control and judge black people. White Americans wanted, back in the day, we demanded black people be segregated, right? So we segregated. Black people said, okay, great. We're going to make our own shit. They started doing great. What did we do? We fucking burned their communities down to the ground. And you're going to sit in your fucking silence? You ought to be ashamed of yourself for not giving a fuck.
Okay, he's like really mad at the camera, and like this sort of like this TikTok performative outrage for your cell phone camera, like, number one, is very off-putting. But what I will say is that there's a point to be made that he's making about how the legacy of segregation and racism and all this stuff in this country, when black people tried to create their own, it was burned down. Like, that's real. Like, that is history. That is real. My counterpoint to that is this. We have become, and this, I'm going to take this white lib out of it, like, him notwithstanding, like, that dude needs to get on a treadmill. So we're going to let him go get on a treadmill because he needs to work out some anger. He is very angry at himself or other white people or whatever. He needs to go take a boxing class. He needs to box some of that stuff out. What I will say is this. That history that he is talking about exists. It's a very real thing. Like, that's as real as the sky is blue. What I would like for I'm gonna take white people out of it. What I would like for black people to do is start building our own stuff. What I would like for black people to do is to start building and investing in our own communities. What I would like black people to start doing is investing more into entrepreneurship and more into capitalism. Oh, but wait a minute, because the same black libs that are agreeing with this tub of guts are going to say that capitalism is wrong and entrepreneurship is wrong. And if you say that capitalism is good, and if you say that entrepreneurship is good, and if you say that the only real way for black people out of poverty is not through a government program, it's actually through capitalism and entrepreneurship, then they're going to call you an Uncle Tom and a coon. And people like that are going to be hopping in the comment section doing the same thing. So that's why when these people actually do, like when idiots like this actually do make a point, it's why I can't take the point seriously. Because I know what that's all about. So I guess what I would like to say to this white lib, to all the white libs, look, you're not, this is cringe. Number one, just hating yourself for being white and trying to be the woke white person to get pats on the back from black people is totally cringe. Like, I'm so over it. But also, why don't you just let black people do their thing? And if you want, and this again, individualism versus collectivism, this dude could actually be doing something to advocate for whatever shortcomings white people have. But what is he doing? Absolutely nothing. He's whining about it on social media. So be an individualist, do something. And for the black people that are applauding this, oh yeah, that white man knows what's going on or whatever, this dude is playing you. Stop listening to people like this. Engage in capitalism, engage in entrepreneurship, build your own stuff. And that's all I got to say about that. All right, Problematics, thank you so much for joining. Please watch, subscribe, like, share, do all of these things to help grow this page, help support the podcast. And you can always find the audio version of this podcast on iHeart Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.